Hello and welcome to my build overview and a quick recap of how my League Star has been going. So currently I'm playing Ellie Hit, which is my mapper, which is basically what the video is going to be about. So basically I've been getting quite a few PMs now of people asking what mapper they want to play since they've been playing their boss killer and made some money and they want to roll into a nice mapper right now. So I chose Ellie Hit. Um, as for my league start, so I started as an Ice Trap Raider and done my bossing, progressed my Atlas, and made some money with that build. It was pretty good, but nothing special, I would say. Um, I'd say it's actually really good for this league because you gotta come into this league with a lot less expectations and not comparing it to last leagues since there's been a lot of nerfs and you can definitely feel them. You can even see a lot of people are struggling, even people with thousands of hours. So the nerfs are definitely hitting. As for the Ice Trapper, I can give you the POB if you want it, but it has quite a lot invested into it, especially as a guy coming from playing League Start minors with almost nothing invested into them to a Trapper that had quite a bit invested into it and having less damage. But it was still good enough to do all my Guardian invitations and just farm Guardians, farm maps, and make some money with it. And the added benefit was that Ice Trap was really meta, so all my gear just went up through the roof. So that's why I decided to sell it on pretty much day 3, day 4 of the league to basically get so much money. I think I sold all my gear for like 3 or 4 times the price I paid for it, and that helped me get a quick headhunter. But then the issue was that I was stuck and I had no build to play because Ellie Hit took a lot more money than I expected to get going. So that's the first point I want to make. If you're thinking about switching to Ellie Hit, make sure you have enough money. Now, Headhunter is not required, obviously. There is no Beyond on map device. Of course, it does feel nice, especially when you have a Legion like you're seeing right now. But there is no Beyond on map device, so you can't just rely on Headhunter carrying you. So you need the build to be good without it, which Ellie Hit definitely is. Um, but you definitely want a decent amount of budget before rolling into it. Now, there's two options you can do, and I'm going to throw you some numbers, but take these with a grain of salt, I should say, or with caution. Ideally, obviously, the more money you have, the better. But if you want to do tier 14s to 16s, be able to kill your conquerors and maybe even Cyrus, I would not come into this with less than 20 exalts at least for that. But then there's the other option, maybe even 25 exalts. It's up to you, but definitely want a decent budget. The more the better, again, like I said, because it scales really well. And then the other option, which a lot of people are also doing, is just you can do it on a really budget, like 5 to 10 exalts maybe, um, which is still a decent amount, mind you, but at least for that budget, and you just farm lower tier maps. Now, it's not because you're doing lower tier maps like white and yellow maps or even low red maps. It doesn't mean you're making less money. There's a lot of money making strategies like farming essences, farming haywork, and crafting cluster jewels, farming breaches, just mapping in general. You can definitely still make decent money with just doing low tier content, so it's not like a bad thing to do. And then you can obviously scale the build into endgame. Now, Ellie Hit, the reason I chose it, first of all, I was league started as a raider with the idea to roll into it anyway. It's a very strong skill. It has a lot of damage even after the nerfs. It scales incredibly well with money into it. You can map really fast with it, and once you have money into it, you can one-shot Conquerors, you can kill Awakener 8 pretty easily. So it's just a really solid build. But the other point of the build, so other than money required, obviously, there is the survivability aspect. So the build, it can get quite tanky for mapping at least, but one shots will always happen with it. The truth is, this build just doesn't get a big life pool. You can of course scale it yourself and change the skill tree to get more life and stuff like that, but you will give up a lot of damage for that. So you pretty much rely mainly on just dodge cap and not getting hit, which actually is a very solid amount of defenses, all things considered. But of course, once hits can happen. Now, I'm level 93 at the moment with like 50% XP. So somehow I am leveling, but I am playing with Cast on that portal. And if you see Cast on that portal in anyone's setup, you know that that build is squishy. So I'm definitely dying here and there. But it's not annoying me too much at this point because I'm still being able to do all my maps and all the content I want and make money. And eventually, once I upgrade my gear, I will die a lot less. So there's that. So with these things out of the way, I'm just gonna go in game and show you my gear and go over how I got it. Now, This is just take one, by the way. My gear is nowhere near min-maxed. You can definitely probably even find better setups and stuff like that. But this is just what I'm working with right now, and it's working fine for me for the money I invested into it so far. Here we are for the gear overview. So first thing, I'm gonna start with the bow. Now, I'm planning to, once I min-max my gear, make a video detailing how to craft each piece, and the bow is gonna be part of that. Since there's no point of me to spend 5 minutes right now to tell you how to craft the bow, since most likely you won't hit this. It's really expensive to hit this. I got extremely lucky. The TLDR is basically you get +2 arrows, you fracture it, use Deafening Essence of Rage until you hit either, I would even settle for tier 2 fire damage, so flat fire, or +2 to level of socketed bow jumps. Once you hit that, ideally you have an open prefix. If you don't, you have to annul it, or do prefix to suffix, same result basically. And then once you have an open prefix, you put prefix can be changed, then you veiled chaos orb and hope that you add a prefix. Then you hope that the prefix you unveil is elemental resistances penetrate, which that's basically what I got. I also got the tier 1 fire damage even on the third essence, so that's extremely lucky. Finish my prefixes, and then you can put prefix can be changed and reforce speed to hit attack speed. Now, eventually I will reroll this into tier 1 attack speed, but I didn't have the money to keep going. At the start I didn't even roll any attack speed, I just had crafted attack speed on it, but then I managed to get a couple exalts and managed to get attack speed on there, and then you just craft crit chance quality. But at the start you can use Death's Opus, which is what most people are using for Ellie hit, and then once you can either buy a bow or craft one. The stats you're looking for are just, if this has +2 arrows, great, but a lot of bows don't have +2, maybe even +1 or none. The most important things are your prefixes basically. You want to, any pen is good, any high flat fire is good. Ideally you have +2 level of bow gems or +2 level of gems, and that's really strong as well because LA hit scales a lot with levels. And then attack speed, of course, the ideal bases are ticket bow and imperial bow, and then attack speed and crit chance is really good for your suffixes. So that's the bow. The helm, Asnas Chant, it's really strong because it just triggers your curses and stuff like that, you don't have to waste time casting them. So for the enchant, it's the best enchant at a hit attack speed. Now you can buy the regular one, so SS Mark with the enchant, which there's a lot more on the market of, and then you can upgrade it yourself with the prophecy and it will keep the enchant. So I bought the base for 2x at the time and the prophecy for 1.5, so it cost me about 3.5x. The quiver, so the quiver, ideally you get +1 arrow on it and then some damage stats, and life or resist or accuracy would be nice. Now if you don't use a headhunter, you will just use a Stygian Vice with elemental damage with attacks, life and resists, and then you can put a searching eye in there with accuracy roll on it. You only need 1 accuracy roll and you'll be capped. So then your quiver, ideally you get resist or something like that. But the way I crafted this, basically I use a 4-socket resonator, and the combination I used was corroded, lucent, metallic, and shuddering. And basically with that combination you block all the, so you want to roll in a shaper, spike one quiver, and with that combination you pretty much block all prefixes except for life and +1 arrow. So anytime that you do hit 2 prefixes on the item, it will always be +1 arrow and any tier of life. So you can see here I got tier 6 life, which is not great, but it's better than nothing. And also you will always have an open prefix since you can only have 2 mods, so you can always craft elemental damage with attacks. And then for your suffixes, you have a good chance to get crit mods. I got pretty lucky and I got both crit chance and crit multi, but whatever you get is pretty much good. Getting resist is really good as well, so you can just go with that. It took me 3 attempts to make this. To hit the +1 arrow, I think it's about 5 attempts on average to hit +1 arrow. It is quite expensive. I think it costs about 50 chaos per roll, so it's quite pricey, but you can start with just a normal quiver without +1 arrow. Just get life, crit chance, crit multi, or even resist on there, and that would be just fine for the start. As for the rings, so Pyre, really cheap, cost me about 5 chaos. The Taming costs about 40 or 50 chaos at the time. It's just a really strong ring, gives a lot of damage and a lot of resists, which you desperately need. The boots, Dark Ray Vectors, they're pretty much 1 chaos, I'd say. They're just really strong for the build, give you +1 frenzy, you get extra dodge from it, you get a big resist roll. late game, I do plan to switch this out once I can craft some nice tailwind boots, but I will be using this for quite a while. The main thing I hate about them is that they don't give base movement speed. So you can see here, when I don't have my frenzy charges, I move quite slowly. So it's quite annoying sometimes when you're backtracking in maps and your frenzy charges drop off, but most of the times you have them up and they're just really strong boots. As for the gloves, you can look for gloves with +1 frenzy charges. So you can either do what I did and try and find some corrupted ones with life and resist on them. I got mine for 30 or 40 chaos at the time. And the other option is to just get Hands of the High Templar, the unique gloves with +1 frenzy. I think they're going for about 1 to 2 exalts for just +1 frenzy, and they have life and resist on them as well. So that's nice to start you off. You could technically also drop the +1 frenzy and just go for really solid gloves if you like are really starving on resistance, stuff like that. As for the body, so my body, I paid 3 exalts for this. Actually, I think 2.5 exalts at a time. So I basically just looked for life and attack crit. Attack crit is quite important and gives you a lot of damage since, of course, damage flash nerf. And then just life, which is just obviously you want a decent life pool. If you can get some resistance there, great. But you know, depends how cheap or how expensive you want to be. The late game body, ideally, you will have life. You will have additional curse, which gives you a lot of damage. And personally, I will go for avoid ailments as my third prefix, which will make me ailment immune. And then the suffixes, you want attack crit, and then either resist. Maybe you can get power charge on crit, but you know, that's for the future. I think that's all the gear, the flasks. So I'm using a mana flask. We have mana leech, so I'm not super reliant on the mana flask, but it is quite nice since even trigger stuff, so like Way of Conviction here and stuff, it still costs mana. So sometimes when I'm spamming, my mana quickly goes down, so the mana flask just helps counteract that, since it will just keep going, and it will help me regen my mana if I'm not leeching. Then I have this flask setup. So the Overflowing Chalice, the way this works, once you have the enchant used when charges reach full, basically when I hit mobs, these flasks will trigger because they're full charges, and then obviously I need to get charges back. The Overflowing Chalice, basically this will trigger, and these flasks will get double the charges basically back, so they will get the charges back way faster than normal. This can't get charges, but these will reach full again, so these will trigger again, and then I'll kill another pack of mobs, this will get the charges back, and then this will trigger again. So basically it will just auto trigger your flasks, and if you're mapping fast enough, you will have perma uptime on your flasks. Same with this. Now this is just used when adjacent flasks use with pretty much the same concept, because this one would auto trigger and then it will auto trigger this one, so I just don't have to press flasks. It's a nice setup. But ideally late game you will drop the Overflowing Chalice to get a Dying Sun, which is a lot of damage, and then Quicksilver, Diamond Flask, and Cinder Swallow. So you want Corrupting Blood immunity unless you have a jewel, which I don't have a jewel yet. It's quite expensive currently, so I'm just using it on here. I have freeze immunity because I'm not avoid ailments capped yet. Like I said, I'm gonna get the rest of my avoid ailments on my body, so then I can put poison removal on here, which is quite dangerous this league. And that's pretty much it for the flasks. As for the passive tree, so first the ascendancy, so you take these nodes and these nodes. You could maybe drop this and go for onslaught instead, but I think this is stronger since you already can get onslaught from a flask. Granted, it's not always up, but it's good enough, especially for bossing. And this is just nice because you can get avoid ailment cap, so you get 50% there, you get 20% from this cluster, and then ideally later when you get 30% on your body, you can be ailment immune. There's also technically, if you want to drop some other stuff, you could go here and just get ailment immune right away, but I think it's a lot of points, and the skill tree, you get a lot of damage from your skill tree, so it's quite nice. So of course you want your combat focuses, don't forget you definitely need these, so you only deal fire damage. Next is Inch Philippe here, just very efficient because you get all these nodes, which are all quite good for you. Phase Acro, of course, I mean the rest of the skill is pretty straightforward. The one thing is we're using a large cluster. So here we have Martial Prowess, which is a really strong node, and then you have your Life Leech node, Feed the Fury, and Fuel the Fly, which is your Mana Leech node. So that's for your large cluster. Your medium clusters, you want to use crit clusters with pressure points and quick getaway. So they're not that hard to roll, you can just alteration spam for them, and anytime you hit, I think it was pressure points, you can regal and hope you get a quick getaway. But you definitely want to invest in crit this time around because Diamond Flask nerfs, so crit chance is really valuable. Ideally late game you get a second large cluster here, and then you will root your skill tree with this, so 1-2 points here to connect this here, and then you will respec this part of it, which I'm probably gonna do pretty soon, since I have some extra nodes. So I will respec this life node here as well, and this life node here, so I will lose even more life. I'll probably be around 3.3k life, I would say. But for now, this is the skill tree. So that's the build for now. Again, it's good enough for me. I'm doing red webs just fine. I've killed the Cyrus like 3 times now with this build, so it's good enough. But a lot of upgrades are coming. You can see on PoE Ninja and filter by damage, and there's people that on PoE Ninja have way more damage than me even. So there's a lot of scaling still to do. There's a lot of upgrades to make, and the build already is good enough for what I'm doing. Quick overview of my atlas, by the way, for what I'm farming right now. So I farmed quite a bit in Hayward Hamlet and Harvest, because you can make quite a lot of money from Harvest. I mean, I'm crafting all sorts of things, especially clusters, rings with curse on them, amulets for Hunter influence, just rolling bodies with Fizz for Crusader, for Explode, which is quite good. The rolling ES shield. So Harvest is really good money, but you need to have some knowledge of crafting. The much easier option, and the one that's really good that I'm doing right now, is Blight and Breach. So you want to have all these nodes here in Lyra Arcane, and it's very straightforward. I'm just doing with Scarabs, so you can use Breach Scarabs, Blight Scarabs. I'm running out of Blight Scarabs. Even though these are 9 kills, you make your money back quite good, I would say. I'm selling blighted maps, especially tier 14 to 16 ones, for about 35 kills each, and that's at this price is almost half an exalt. You gotta keep in mind that exalts are only 75 kills so far, so making 30 to 35 kills is literally almost half an exalt. So don't sleep on that. Breaches is so strong as well, because the Breach Scarabs, the rusted ones, are like 1 chaos each, even in bulk, and a lot of the breaches just sold a couple stones, but the Zolf and the Toll stones are like 25-28 chaos, even Ash is 20 chaos, all the tools are almost 50 chaos, and then I mean Chayula obviously is always expensive. I don't even have the craftable watch stones yet, and I'm already making so much money from this. So currently I'm just doing this, and I'm also running Zana, so I have Zana here, so I run my Zana missions, and I get a lot of harvests in there, so I can just craft with harvest. So that's currently what I'm doing. I'm still saving a lot of money. I owe a friend about 20 exalts still, so I'm saving to pay him back. I can soon pay him back, and then I can start making money to upgrade the build. So probably will start min-maxing the build. I'd say maybe in 3 days or something like that, 2 days maybe I'll start doing some upgrades, so we will see, and I will definitely make another video once the build is finished, to give you an idea of what it can do in endgame. Hope you enjoyed, hope you're enjoying the league,